Welcome back to Suoiverp's Minecraft Let's Play series. Today we're going to take this 10 by 15 rectangle and turn it into this magnificent storage building. As we get started, I have 3 helpers. We're following a build tutorial by Zapixel. That's a block by block tutorial and I've linked to it in the description. So we're going to start with a 3 tall base of cobbled deep slate. Outside of that, we put deep slate bricks with upside down stairs forming small arches like so. Man, I'm really struggling with stairs today. There we go. Yeah, right now our storage is a mess and it's even blocking our build a bit, but we're gonna have to build around it for now. Next, we cover the whole top with spruce planks. Then, stripped spruce around our doorways on the sides. Calcite for the walls with 2-block tall windows all around. We place spruce trim on the lower part with some stone brick pillars as embellishments that surround the windows. We do the same on the back. Calcite continues up on the sides to set the slope for the roof. Maybe surprisingly, there's no attic in this build, even though it seems quite tall. Stone brick embellishments continue on the sides, reaching up the side. The end of the roof line is what you see here, fairly steep, no trim or border, it's copper all the way across. And here's the staircases finished. This is different from the tutorial because we want to be able to come up the stairs from the front or from the back, so we've changed the stairs a bit. And there's a cutout where the calcite comes up further. This will look like a window, but actually be aesthetic only, so we won't be able to see this window from the inside. Now this big room needs to be broken up a bit. So a partial wall in the middle of each side gives 4 identical sections. Right now I'm sticking with the tutorial and I'm making this wall 3 logs deep. Later we'll take off one of the logs so the room feels less cramped and there's a better visibility throughout the building. Oops, be careful not to hit the roof if you're stripping the logs like this. It'll remove the oxidation. Now we've got to place stairs here rather than full blocks so the chests underneath can open. And here is what the inside of the window area looks like. We've added a wooden divider that strengthens the separation between the 2 sides. Also helps add the illusion that large wooden beams are holding up the roof. This carries on the pattern along the top of each section. Now some glass panes for the windows. I'm using cyan and light blue, and you'll catch a glimpse of the glowstone outside. That helps spawn-proof what would otherwise be spawnable blocks. A little foliage for the top windows. And signs help make this look like a window box. Yeah, not bad. All right, I've changed the configuration of the chests and I've added item frames. Over here we have workstation blocks and a staircase to an unfinished basement. A jump cut, and the chests are all set up. I've moved everything from outside, everything from random boxes here and there, and we are all organized, which is super. I thought I'd give you the tour of how I've laid out this storage building. We've got a total altogether of 55 double chests, and I always find it interesting to see how other people lay out their storage, so I'm going to walk you through what we've got going on here. So in this section, which is one of the 4 segments, bottom left, we've got armor, so all 4 of the types of armor: helmet, chest plate, leggings, and boots. Then we've got weapons, which include swords and bows, tools of all sorts, and currently empty armor trims. Next up, uncooked food and cooked food. We could probably put these both in a single chest, or rather combine them into a double chest, but for now, this works out. Crops, so that would be stuff that could be replanted, also including some other plants that can be planted, bamboo for example, even though that's not edible. The top one would be things that are food ingredients, including mushrooms, bulbs, other things that you could combine, maybe even keep the poisonous mushrooms, it's not mushrooms, poisonous potatoes, and drop them in this chest here. You just never know when you might want something like that. I don't know why, but there you go. Next up, we've got all the mob drops. This includes everything that mobs drop. In some cases, those get sorted into some other chests, but frequently I'll have at least some of mob drops. So for example, blaze rods might be in the nether, they might be in the fuel bin, which is this one over here, or they might be in mob drops. Kind of wherever you go first to look for something, basically, is the rule of thumb I use. Sometimes I'll split, if I have a bunch, I'll split it among multiple chests so that wherever I look first, there are some there. Moving on up, so after mob drops, we have all the bee related stuff. So this is beehives, bee nests, honey bottles, honey blocks. It also includes candles, which could have a chest of their own if you do a lot of candle stuff, but I don't so far, and so those would go in here. Then this one has not just seeds, like the regular plain seeds or wheat seeds, but also melon seeds and cocoa beans, which I guess are a sort of seed. And then I put hay and hay bales in here, even though hay could arguably go in this one. And then hay bales could arguably go in the one above, which is mob-related, animal-related stuff. So, for example, as you can tell, the horse armor, saddles would go in here. I put leads in here, even though wandering trader llamas drop leads. They can anyway. And then sometimes I'll put other things related to mob breeding. Sometimes that stuff will go in here too. Next up, though, would be lighting. So this would be all kinds of lighting, including not just torches and lanterns, but sea lanterns, which we haven't gotten any yet. Other kinds of lighting blocks, shroom lights or frog lights, which we haven't also gotten any of. Glowstone will go in here. Basically, even the jack-o'-lanterns, the carved pumpkins you put a torch with. Just one place to come and grab anything that you might need when thinking about lighting. Next up would be fuel, and kind of similarly, there's not just one kind of fuel, so sometimes I'll put wooden slabs in here, definitely coal and charcoal, and things like lava buckets. You can also do kelp blocks. The dried kelp blocks would go in there, and basically anything that is eligible to go into the fuel slot of a furnace. However, I usually don't throw all the rest of the wood stuff in there, so I wouldn't put bamboo in here, I wouldn't put wood planks in here. That sort of stuff has its own bin. This one is, as you can tell by the snowball, not just snow, though it's also ice and all the kind of gradations of ice, all the other variations or densities of ice, blue ice and packed ice and such. And then this one with the sea pickle would be everything ocean or water related. So sea pickles and kelp, but also all the variations of coral blocks would go in there, both the dead coral blocks and then the colorful ones. Sometimes I'll put boats in there as well, because if I'm just going out for an ocean exploration, this might be a good place to grab water related stuff from. All right, so that's the first segment done. So that's one of four. Let's move over to the next one. And as you see over here, it's laid out exactly the same. So chest on the side, chest on the side. I do it like this. I didn't explain this yet, but I do it like this because even though the original model for this layout has 6 chests side by side, you get just the ends. And so either you don't know what's in them, you just have to remember, which gets very tedious, or you don't really have much of a space to click on the chest without hitting the item frame. And so I like to lay it out this way because you could fit three chests side by side, but this way you do get enough space to hit either chest in the corners pretty easily, whether you're on a mobile device or on a computer. Works out pretty well. So moving along, we've got, as you can tell, wool. So this would include things like colored wools and carpets as well, and maybe even banners in that one. And I think that's one of the challenging things as you go along is finding where you would look for things for items that are maybe less common. So I don't use tons of banners. I use them occasionally. You know, if I had a leftover banner, where would I put it? This would be the place I'd put it. This would be flowers, and not just flowers, but dyes as well. So all the variations of colors of dyes would go in here. And then this is gravel, but it's also concrete, and all the colored concretes would go in here. I try not to craft a bunch of extra concrete. I try to stick pretty close to whatever amount I need because I find that given the number of variations of colors, it's really easy to have something like that overwhelm your storage system. And then this one is bone blocks and bone meal and bones. Also one that maybe you don't need a ton of space for, especially because bone meal can be condensed into bone blocks. So if you don't want to put it with the dyes, or if you want to put it with your crops or with one of the places where it makes sense to you because you often use bone meal, then that would be a potential place to reuse that storage for something else. Moving down from the bottom up to the top again, this one is dirt and grass and all the dirt-like blocks, so coarse dirt and the path blocks. If you have Silk Touch, you can pick up path blocks in Bedrock Edition. Next up being mud and all the mud bricks and variations of mud since the introduction of mangrove swamps. Glass and glass panes, tinted glass, all that would go in here. Sand, red sand, sandstone, and all of its variants would go in here. I split my logs into 2 different chests. Some people like lots of chests so they can segment them out per log or log type or wood type. I tend not to need that much variation. It's, I think, more time consuming to have so many chests that they're spread really far out and you have to do a lot of walking back and forth. So it's one of the reasons I like this layout. It's pretty condensed. So just turning around gives you, pretty easy access to a lot of chests. So what I'll do is I'll have like birch, oak, and spruce in one chest. And then if I have a ton of dark oak, I may move it into a separate chest. The cherry wood produces quite a lot from the cherry trees. So there's a lot of cherry wood, but I find that it's difficult to get a bunch of mangrove. So it doesn't take up as much space, which is why I can put more kinds of wood into another chest. So I'll have like maybe 3 different kinds in here and then the rest of them into a separate chest. And there's some just I don't use as much, like acacia. I'll have some, but I won't have very much. And then all the wood crafted blocks. So everything from planks and slabs to wood fences and doors and pressure plates and whatever is left over from a building project will end up in here, even sticks and ladders and such. Crafting tables as well. Basically, if wood is a primary ingredient, then it may end up in here. And then this one's an interesting one because I've broken out saplings into their own chests before, but this one has saplings, has leaves, it has moss. It's one I could see potentially being a bit overcrowded, and so this would be a place where it might make more sense to have like the saplings in their own chest over here or the moss in their own separate chest over here if you do a lot with azalea. That's all in here as well, so it's quite a lot in there. I might rethink that one at some point. And then this one is not just cobblestone, it's also regular stone, but not smooth stone. So the deep slate and cobble deep slate are in here, and then all other full blocks of stone. So smooth stone, stone bricks, and anything else that's a stone block that's a full size goes in here, and then all the other crafted variations go in here. So stairs of every stone type and mossy types and so on. But that doesn't include, moving on to the third section, doesn't include andesite, diorite, and granite, which all have their own chest over here. And then this one's the valuables, which includes, I realize I'm skipping a column, but this is something that I may revisit because the stone stuff, you kind of come back from mining. I might want it all together, so I might, I don't know, switch this column and this column, for example. Um, Other valuables like diamonds and emeralds and even coal goes in here. You can get a lot of coal when mining, and that would fill up pretty quickly. So that one's in here as well. All the copper blocks. This roof took so much copper, and I also ended up with a lot of different variations of copper because you have all the stages of oxidation. I actually don't know. Neither of those sounds right now. But all the different stages from the kind of orangey color to the bluish green. That's the final stage of oxidized copper, and all the variations of the kinds of blocks for each of those stages. So there's just a lot of different blocks that can end up in here. This one's terracotta and glazed terracotta, which I have next to none of so far. If we find a Badlands, that might change, but here we are. So redstone and all the redstone related blocks, except for rails, which have their own chest. And this is another one where that could probably be combined. So maybe at one point these will end up in the same chest. Deep dark related stuff, ancient city blocks, skulk stuff, that's all in here. And then this one has both the geode items, so the amethyst stuff, as well as calcite, and then also dripstone. Maybe that's something that you would want broken out, but I just find that I don't have so much of it that it deserves its own chest. And so if there were maybe even drip leaves, I might put those in here, or I might put them over with the other plants somewhere over that direction. Moving on, we have Netherrack, which at this point has a chest all its own because that's almost entirely full from digging out tunnels in the nether, and then other nether blocks, so soul sand and soul soil and magma blocks. Then here's where some of those other blocks might end up here or elsewhere. So for example, gas tier as an item, I guess it's not really a block, but would it end up here or on mob drops? It's, up to you. Like I said, where would you look first? This one has brushes and pottery sherds, which we haven't yet done much with, but we'll get there. And when we do, it'll be fun. And we want a place to put that stuff. Then music discs, which they're not very bulky, but they're not stackable. So music discs are, they're not something you come across super, super frequently, but there's enough of them that if you want to have a collection, it's nice to have a double chest all dedicated to that. Maybe keep a jukebox in there or something along those lines. Then next up, nether bricks and nether brick slabs and those sorts of variations end up in here. And then regular bricks and clay and anything related to those, such as these pots that you've got right here and the flower pots as well. Those are all based out of clay, are made from clay, which are turned to bricks and so on. Then next up, paper and maps. So if you do a lot of map making, it's nice to have a lot of paper on hand and a cartography table, which we'll get to in a second. I'm looking over here, not because of the painting of the doors, but there's a cartography table right there. And then books and maybe enchanted books as well. Again, maybe there's a better place for it if you have like a whole bunch of them, or trading hall or something along those lines. But if not, then a single double chest is probably sufficient. So that's 3 out of the 4 sections. And our fourth one, at the moment, doesn't have a ton of stuff. But these 3 are open for future expansion. And then this one's, what would you call it? Like job blocks and villager related blocks. We don't actually have need for a cauldron at the moment, so it's just hanging out up there, and anything else that we might have that is villager related or job block related would go in there. Then we've got a bunch of the job blocks that are useful, at some point in time, and everything from anvils to grindstones and stone cutters, etc. This one has potions, this one's empty, this one has end stuff, and by the way, that brings me to a point that I think we haven't covered. This building took forever. The biggest part of it is I had to keep going and collecting copper. I could not believe how much copper this roof took. So if you intend to do this project, count the cost. Maybe you want to build it out of a different material first and then come back and replace the roof. Or maybe you want to do it, mostly with copper, or maybe you don't need a roof for the beginning of it, and you just need a place that's safe to put your stuff. And in which case, other than phantoms, you'll be safe from other mobs. So this would be fine to not even have a roof on until you end up with enough copper. Or maybe you have copper coming out your ears, in which case this would be a great one. The calcite was also a little bit hard to come by, but we went and found a place in the mountains that had a calcite, I don't know what you call it, stripe, something along those lines. And so it was a couple trips to that, and we had all the calcite we needed. But that is how I've organized my storage building. What do you do differently? I'd love to hear what you find to be adequate, or the right number of chests for you in the early to mid game. This is not a complex building. It's not an auto sorter building. It's just a simple storage system, but it's enough that I can come in and find whatever I need pretty quickly. And yeah, sufficient for my needs. I did also, as I built this, intentionally make one of the segments have some job blocks, as you can tell. Loom over here facing a different direction, so it's I like the texture of this side better. And then the crafting tables in the corners. But additionally to that, I wanted to have a way to get to another floor. So there's not anything really going on down here right now. It's just empty room with some beds. But as it stood, it wasn't sufficiently useful as a storage building without a place to sleep and a place to plan some expansions. So that was important as well. We wanted to be able to be in this building, have nightfall, and have the option to go to sleep without leaving the building. And so adding a basement provided that extra flexibility. I also threw a few decorations around. We've got some armor stands with armor and some of these pots over here. I've added a pack to, I think it's called Better Paintings or something like that. I can link to it in the description, but I really like the variation of paintings that are non-vanilla. They, in my opinion, they're very true to the spirit of vanilla, but the paintings in vanilla Minecraft are just pretty lousy. So it's nice to have some additional variation there, and I recommend that pack if you have the option to download additional packs and add them to your world. It adds just a little extra flavor without really changing any mechanics of the game or anything like that. There you go, tour of the storage building. Thank you so much for joining and watching. Let's do a little bit of a tour of the outside. There we go. Lovely looking storage building. Got a matching staircase on each side, and so it's got an up and a down both towards the front and towards the back of the building, so easy access from all directions. And that's it, friends. Just weeks of hard labor, toil, resource gathering, building. We have this stupendous storage building. Doesn't get any easier than this. I hope we don't outgrow it soon. Oh goodness, it would be bad. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Next episode, we'll be talking about sniffers. Or camels, maybe both. I haven't decided, but it'll be fun. So don't forget to subscribe if you like this content and want to see more like it. Till next time, Suoiverp out. Bye, friends.